Goodness comes and evil goes. Kimunga Ukombozi, Kimunga Ukombozi, Kimunga Ukombozi, divine liberty, divine liberation, divine freedom, and all that will bring for African people wherever we happen to be on the face of this earth. Karibu, welcome, my name is Kwende, and today we're going to get into another important subject, and that subject is Omowale Malcolm X and African spirituality by way of Kwanzaa. The Creator Supreme gave African people the ability to be self-determining in the way of life that they have, in the way of life that they hold, in the way of life that they express. And the spiritual cultural core of living that has been fabric of life since the earliest of times has been cultivated, groomed, and shaped so that it allows African people to be their maximum selves, to operate at their optimal level, to fulfill their maximum potential and their maximum capability. And we've seen the results of that because grand nations, grand civilizations built and maintained and thriving through the effort and orchestration of African hands are replete throughout the annals of history. But of course, in recent times, there's been much by way of interruption and disruption by way of others that mean the African ill. Yet still the African rises and great heroes come along, Omowale Malcolm X being one such great one. And he inspired many forward-thinking, forward-moving, progressive African souls during his physical lifespan and beyond. One group of people that he inspired and came together to form the organization called US were responsible for the creative restoration project that gave us the wonderful observance of Kwanzaa. And it is important to know that I said earlier that it's that spiritual and cultural core of African life that has been with the African from early times. Spirituality and culture are not separate. It's not spirituality over here and culture over here. It's not that. And the way of life that is lived that we may call culture is energized, given vitality through the spiritual force that we carry, the spiritual framework that we operate within. So there's an interconnection between the two. There's a dance that takes place and they're inseparable. As such, when we practice the value system called the Nguzo Saba, and all of the other parts of Kwanzaa that are with us throughout the annual cycle to shape, groom, and develop ourselves and celebrate the yield of that self-harvesting at the end of the year and the beginning of a new one, come the Kwanzaa observance again, we don't leave our spirituality behind. It is interconnected. It is at one. It harmonizes. It is part of that thrust of Kwanzaa living, of cultural living, of family, community, nation, and race. We have then a form of spirituality, African spirituality, because we're talking about African culture, a form of African spirituality that is relevant to African people wherever we happen to be, in the diaspora, on the continent itself, wherever in the world we are, there's a form of African spirituality that is relevant to all African people, that is accessible to all African people, and can be practiced by all African people, just as what we consider to be the cultural substance of Kwanzaa is relevant to all African people, because its spiritual and cultural fabric intertwine to make that core whole and to make ourselves whole. So what we have then is African spirituality by way of Kwanzaa, with the acronym ASBWOK, African spirituality by way of Kwanzaa. And African spirituality at the level we can access and have in our homes wherever we are on the face of this earth. This is self-determined spiritual fabric manifest from the process of creative restoration that yielded the magnificence of that observance time we know as Kwanzaa. And inspired by the thrust of liberty, nationhood, and spirit in the great hero, Omowale Malcolm X. So embrace Kwanzaa and embrace the ASBWOK that goes with it, African spirituality by way of Kwanzaa. And let us restore ourselves to our to realize our maximum potential and maximum capability. So with that, food for thought, and surely it is food for thought. Kimunga Ukombozi, Kimunga Ukombozi, Kimunga Ukombozi, divine liberty, divine liberation, divine freedom, and all that that will bring for African people wherever we happen to be on the face of this earth.
The sun who has returned home, for Africans back on top. The sun who has returned home, for Africans back on top. The sun who has returned home, for Africans back on top. The sun who has returned home, for Africans back on top.